Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. I'm here today with a group of great colleagues in law enforcement to conclude a very significant investigation, and I'm proud to report on the results, which are a product of extraordinary, seamless collaboration with many, many law enforcement agencies, and I'm honored to be here with my colleagues today. Among others, I'm joined by New York State Police Superintendent Joseph D'Amico, who we worked with on a lot of drug rings, and St. Lawrence County Sheriff Kevin Wells, who really got this whole thing started, as well as Syracuse Police Chief Frank Fowler and Deputy Attorney General Perry Kadenoff, who runs my office's Organized Crime Task Force, which coordinated this effort. We are here to announce that we have taken down a major set of interconnected drug rings that had one purpose, which was to procure drugs, cocaine and heroin specifically, in various locations and dump all of them into St. Lawrence County for sale in St. Lawrence County and the surrounding areas. This was not a drug ring that was moving drugs to different parts of the country. This had one purpose, which was to flood the North Country with heroin and cocaine. And as you can see, we've recovered a lot of it and some of the weapons that they were using as a part of their drug operation. Heroin addiction, particularly, is a serious and growing problem in New York State and in the nation. New York is one of the national hubs of heroin importation and distribution. Almost 2% of New York's population, or approximately 350,000 people, admit to using heroin. We know there are many more who use. Overdoses killed over 2,000 New Yorkers in 2011, which was more than twice the number in 2004. Heroin poses a huge threat in particular to counties in this part of the state. And the dealers who we'll talk about who were bringing the drugs here and selling them here understood that all too well. There was over a 400% increase in admissions to drug treatment programming, citing heroin as the primary drug of abuse from between 2007 and 2013 in St. Lawrence County alone. More than a 400% increase in admissions to drug treatment. This is an epidemic that is ruining families and communities all across our state, and I'm committed to doing everything in my power and to working with my colleagues in law enforcement to get dangerous drugs, gangs, and guns off our streets. Today, we have taken a major step forward by identifying and shutting down 4 intertwined heroin pipelines, which had only one purpose: to flood St. Lawrence County and this area with heroin and cocaine. This morning, the St. Lawrence County Court unsealed 4 indictments because there were 4 different pipelines of drugs, alleging that 33 individuals distributed heroin and cocaine in St. Lawrence County and the surrounding counties. In total, we charged 33 individuals with 111 criminal counts. The counts include conspiracy in the second degree, which carries a maximum term of 25 years, and criminal sale of a controlled substance in the first degree, which also can get you a 25-year term. These are very serious charges. This was a very, very serious, very well-coordinated, and unfortunately vastly successful ring at their importation of drugs into the area. These indictments that were unsealed today are the result of a multi-agency investigation, which was codenamed Operation 315, led by my office's Organized Crime Task Force, the St. Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, the New York State Police, and the St. Lawrence County Drug Task Force. We involved many other local law enforcement agencies and had help from some of our federal colleagues as well. We conducted together a 12-month-long investigation, which included covert physical surveillance, hundreds of hours of wiretaps, and just a lot of good old-fashioned police work. In total, the investigation led to the recovery of approximately 2 kilos of heroin, with a street value estimated at approximately $500,000. You can see some here, and over 5 kilos of cocaine with a street value estimated at approximately $600,000. The investigation also recovered over $100,000 in cash and 13 guns, including handguns and 3 assault rifles, and you can see some of the weapons here. This is a dangerous gang. They were not following best business practices. There are other crimes that are also alleged, including burglary and illegal possession of firearms in the various indictments. So over the course of our investigation, we identified different individuals from other parts of the state, Syracuse, Yonkers, one from the Bronx, who we allege were the sources that the gang who were all shown here, who were buying and distributing the drugs in St. Lawrence County and the surrounding area, they went to these different sources to get their drugs. They brought them into the area, traveled across state lines sometimes, across county lines, and then they concealed the narcotics in a variety of very devious ways in the lining of their vehicles' trunks. One group used a lint brush, which they packed with heroin, and the good work of our law enforcement officers, we were able to undo all of this and find all of the ways that they transported heroin. Detailed in the indictments, and again, there are 4 indictments because there were 4 separate sources of drugs. These 4 interconnected drug dealing conspiracies included out-of-county suppliers, but the driving forces behind acquiring and distributing drugs here were Colin Campbell and Jordan Willett, who are in the center of the chart. They're by far and away the largest distributors in the county. They're both charged with A1 level felonies, the highest level of felony that exists in New York's penal system. As alleged, Campbell, Willett, and the other St. Lawrence County dealers formed a network whose members would mix and match in the sense that if one of them ran out of drugs, they would go to another member to be resupplied. So this was a well-coordinated group locally that went to various sources outside of the area to import the drugs, but worked very closely together to sell them and resell them here. The indictments detail their efforts to sell large quantities of narcotics, and they went everywhere. We have evidence of them dealing on the streets of towns across St. Lawrence County, including Edwards, Pierpont, Stockholm, Norfolk, Parishville, Lisbon, Russell, Colton. There was no community too large or small for these guys to stay away from. They dealt drugs everywhere. We also allege that several of the girlfriends or partners of the main St. Lawrence County distributors assisted them in selling and transporting narcotics to customers. And the proceeds from the sale of those drugs in the home of one of the distributors and his girlfriend, investigators found a large quantity of drugs, hypodermic needles, and this weapon, a loaded assault weapon with a 30-bullet clip behind a toddler's bed with the safety off and a bullet in the chamber. That weapon was stored there. So these are some of the people that were part of this conspiracy that we've taken down, and it says a lot about the way that they did business. In addition, as I mentioned, there were people who drove to Massachusetts to obtain heroin from an unidentified supplier, and these 2 also committed residential burglaries, which we allege, and we've charged 2 violent felony counts of burglary in the 2nd degree. This is an ongoing investigation, and we're working with our counterparts in Massachusetts now to identify that source and track them down. I want to thank the great investigators and officers who were involved in this case, in particular Arthur Shattuck of the St. Lawrence County Sheriff's Office and Chris Reedy of our Organized Crime Task Force, the lead investigators in the case. Due to the bravery and the tenacity of our investigators who are on the front lines of our war against heroin, over the last 4 years, our office has broken up more than 20 of the largest drug and gun trafficking rings in the history of the state. In the course of over 500 felony narcotics arrests, we've seized over $100.5 million and guns and other dangerous weapons from drug dealers. We've taken more than 2,000 pounds of illegal drugs off of our streets. But, ladies and gentlemen, you have to use every lever available if you're going to end a drug epidemic. You cannot prosecute your way out of a drug epidemic. We are using every other tool and resource available in the war on these dangerous drugs, and that's why we take great pride in having introduced the iStop program, the only state in the country that has a real-time internet tracking program so that you can't doctor shop and get multiple opioid prescriptions is New York State. Other states are now seeking to follow our model. We also found a way that no other state had found to shut down the sale of synthetic drugs, which an idea that originated in our Watertown office right here. We baffled as we were, as like all law enforcement was, at how you go and bust people for selling a drug where chemicals change every week, where you don't know what it is and it's not defined in the penal code. Dan and our Watertown folks came up with the idea of getting civil injunctions because all these products violated consumer protection laws. We've shut down head shops, cleared the shelves, and the problem of synthetic drugs, bath salts, and that sort of thing has abated. We also have tried to save the lives of people who are overdosing on heroin, to get them into treatment by setting up a program statewide to distribute naloxone kits to law enforcement officers all across the state. Our Community Overdose Prevention, or COP program, is using money that we take from forfeitures that we get in federal state investigations, and we're using it to fund law enforcement agencies so that their officers can have naloxone, which is a nasally delivered drug that literally stops people from dying of heroin overdoses so they can get into treatment. Since we started the program last year, more than 200 law enforcement agencies have signed up, and the program has already saved more than 100 lives in the state. So we are prepared to use every lever available to us. My office will continue to search for more solutions to the heroin crisis. We recently established, for the first time ever, a Northeast Mid-Atlantic interstate heroin task force, so we're now able to share information more easily with our colleagues in other states, in Pennsylvania or Massachusetts, which is relevant in this state, and that is having an impact as well. This is a huge problem. We have to try everything possible to get out of it, and I would suggest that working creatively to solve this problem, we will continue uncovering drug rings and shutting them down, and we're going to continue every other way we can to get people off drugs and to prevent the abuse of illegal narcotics. I have to say that today's case is somewhat different. Most of the big drug gangs we busted might have been based somewhere, but they were moving drugs into different locations. This ring, these people, had one purpose, and that was to procure drugs from various locations around the state and even out of the state, but it was all to sell to people here. This is a gang who had one purpose, and that was to flood the North Country with heroin and cocaine. I think in this particular case, I think this is going to have an immediate effect, and I think there are going to be a lot of drug users unable to find narcotics because we've shut down the entire ring of dealership, 4 separate interlocking conspiracies, 4 separate indictments. This is an extraordinary piece of work, and I'm very proud of my colleagues. So thank you for being here. Thank you for a successful investigation. And if I can just explain something, that we have the chart here, and I've identified the 2 people in the center who were really the heads of this whole operation. There are some folks we haven't apprehended yet, and that's why their faces are covered. People in other – we've got pretty much everyone who's local, but we have agreed that we're not going to disclose the identity of people until we actually apprehend them. But you can see all of these people are dealers. None of these people are just being arrested because they were holding drugs. These are all dealers, and they're part of an extraordinary network that was running a lot of drugs into this area. So now I'd like to introduce a great colleague in this case and in many other cases and many other gang takedowns, a great law enforcement officer, State Police Superintendent Joseph D'Amico.
Thank you, Attorney General Schneiderman. You know, once again, I'm privileged to stand here with the Attorney General and the Organized Crime Task Force and so many other law enforcement partners to announce that we've shut down yet another major drug trafficking ring in upstate New York. You know, the individuals arrested and charged today are responsible for bringing a large quantity of heroin and cocaine into the North Country and parts of central New York. Drugs transported from the Bronx, Massachusetts, and even the Syracuse area. For nearly a year, members of the state police and our partners have been working this case and gathering the intelligence that we needed to take the case down. Law enforcement's been conducting surveillance, executing search warrants, and effecting traffic stops, all based on the intelligence that we collected. And the results, as the Attorney General told you, and as you can clearly see, 7 kilos of dangerous drugs, handguns, shotguns, rifles, assault weapons, and cash. And what does it represent? Drugs that never made it to our streets, weapons and money taken out of the hands of dangerous drug dealers. And these are dangerous drug dealers who sold drugs all across St. Lawrence County, from the towns of Tupper Lake, Canton, and Messina to the villages of Potsdam and Edwards. And 33 people who have absolutely no regard for the damage that these drugs can do to a community. And they did whatever it took to get them here, as you heard, a mother endangering her child, transporting drugs in a car with her toddler present, and later on a loaded assault weapon and needles found in close proximity to the child, hiding drugs in their cars, in the lining of their trunks, common items, even in the seat of a wheelchair for one of the handicapped suspects. And sadly, these dealers all knew that when they got the drugs to St. Lawrence County, there'd be no shortage of customers, because heroin is on the rise in this country and definitely in New York State. It's become cheaper, more readily available, and it's killing New Yorkers. Troopers just in this area alone over the last 2 years have responded to more than 3 dozen fatal overdoses, most involving heroin or prescription pain medication. Heroin, powerfully addictive, and as a drug, it doesn't discriminate. It affects teens, grandparents, white-collar, blue-collar, single and married with children. And our members have encountered people with addictions in all walks of life. And thanks to the Attorney General and naloxone, we've been able to effect 26 saves in just a couple of months that we've been deploying naloxone to our troopers. Getting these drugs off the street, stopping this business, we're preventing crime, we're preventing further addiction, we're saving lives. Here at State Police, we're committed to working with our partners in law enforcement to identify these groups, put them out of business, and to send a clear message to anyone who thinks they're going to sell dangerous and deadly drugs. We'll find you, we'll prosecute you, you will go to jail. I want to thank Attorney General Eric Schneiderman for his leadership and his continued efforts in getting drugs out of our community. I need to thank Perry Kadnoff, the Deputy Attorney General who runs the Organized Crime Task Force, Deputy Chief Gene Black, and the great team of investigators and prosecutors that they have there for bringing another great case. And I'd surely be remiss if I didn't recognize the dedication and work of the New York State Police, the uniformed troopers, the narcotics unit and Troop B, and all of our federal, state, local, and county law enforcement partners, many of whom are standing here with us today. This case speaks to the incredible interagency coordination and cooperation that it takes to take one of these drug gangs off the streets. To the police chiefs and sheriffs that I stand here with, I just say thank you for your support, for your partnership, and for all the great work that you do with us. And I'll hand it back to the Attorney General.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent D'Amico. And now I'd like to introduce our partner from the outset who really got this whole thing going, St. Lawrence County Sheriff Kevin Wells.
Good afternoon, and I'd just like to start out by saying that none of this is possible without wonderful communication and working professional relationships that we have with all our law enforcement partners. Our newest partner in this would be the Attorney General's office and the staff of his staff, working with our investigators. The St. Lawrence County Drug Task Force, as many of local reporters here understand, is headed up by the Sheriff's Office, but is comprised, and it works because of all of our local law enforcement partners, many of those police chiefs which are standing behind us right now. And without that great communication and that working professional aspect, we wouldn't be able to do what we need to do for our public. And in regards to this, we've all made a commitment to our communities and to our public in regards to fighting this battle. And it's going to be hard-pressed for you to go anywhere in this country, including St. Lawrence County, and not find somebody that's been affected by heroin or opiates in their families, in their friends, in their schools, on their teams. And again, as the superintendent acknowledged, it's all ages. It hits home everywhere. And we're riding through this storm, and we're working very hard, and our investigators are putting hundreds and hundreds of hours of effort into this. And when it comes time to work with other agencies, our doors are wide open. And in this case, the Attorney General's office, the New York State Police, and all of our local partners. And we're proud to stand here with them, but the ones that really need the kudos in this whole thing are the investigators of our task force and the other agencies that worked with us. So thank you for being here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and thanks to all for an extraordinary job. Well done. This investigation was initiated and completed in about a year. So this was a lot of work done very quickly. Thank you.